So here we go, guys. This is very interesting. Now, this is a project I have kept my eye on for a little while now. It is an attempt, from what I've seen from, I assume to be fans, who've been trying to bring Sega back into the console market. I've told you guys several times, Dreamcast or Sega fans, people who like the consoles, they are absolute die-hard fans of Sega's game consoles from the past, and this pretty much proves it. So originally what happened here was they started out as Project Dream, and then they went to Dreamcast Reloaded, and now after getting, I guess, enough signatures, or they're getting close to enough, I think right now, from what I remember seeing, they are just about to 35,000. They were at about 33,000 last I checked. And the attempt here is to then give that petition to Sega and have Sega, I assume, partner with them to build this system. And the system I'm going to be showing you that they're proposing is technically stronger than the PS4 Pro and may, depending on what they go with in terms of OS and everything, may be close to what we're seeing with the Xbox One X. Now, they very recently named the, I guess, the system itself. It's called Spartan. That is the system. And I know you're thinking like I did, you could think of like Halo or anything like that, but it's just called Spartan. And it's an interesting looking system. It actually looks okay. It is a pretty flashy system. They do have it in white or black, and it has like that red accent kind of on the front and the top of it. But it's not a bad looking system. It looks pretty modern. It looks sleek. And then you get down to some of the stuff that they want to get into. Namely, they want to get into 4K gaming. They actually had a Sonic demo shown that apparently is running on what I assume to be the specs that they're aiming. It was running pretty good. It's a 4K Sonic game, so interesting. They actually have some gameplay to show. Now, they did talk about this being a render, the console you've just seen, and that they are working to produce a completely working, I assume, prototype in the next few weeks. Like, we're going to see a fully working system that can be played on in the next, from what they said, week or two. So they are moving quick with this, very fast. And I guess they're aiming for when they have those 35,000 signatures to then present it to Sega. Petitions are hit or miss. Sometimes petitions work well. Other times the company just doesn't care. I don't know if they've talked to Sega already and Sega was like, look, get 35,000 signatures and we'll talk. They're going to get them. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Sega's response is, because it's very clear that this group wants Sega's branding on this thing badly. And I can understand, because if not, from what I'm going to show you, it may get lost in the sea of Steam machines. So here's some stuff from their website. The first thing that they talk about is a blast from the past, and that's going to be where you play, according to them, your favorite games from Game Gear, Master System, Genesis, Saturn, Dreamcast, and the next generation titles. So they want to be able to give you everything in one, and that's gonna be interesting because there's no good working Sega Saturn emulator, so maybe they're designing one, or maybe they're gonna have Sega help them design one. From there, they also want to have, and this is the problem I have with a lot of these, they want to do an open platform. It's gonna be Spartan OS, and it's open source. According to them, it'll let you download your games and run them straight off the Spartan console. That's fine. But the only thing the issue I have with a lot of these systems that try to do this is you have to understand the company would do this to make money. They're not really doing it for fun or because they're diehard fans or anything. They want this company, Sega, wants this system to be closed. They don't want it to be open source because they want to take their cut from the store. That's how these companies, that's how Nintendo makes money from their stuff. That's how Microsoft, Sony, don't get me started on Steam still takes 30% from these games. It's crazy. 30%, that's a lot of money. If it sells 1 million copies, 30% of a million sales is a pretty good chunk. So I don't know why the Atari box is open source. Why? Well, I know it's bad. I get it. It's bad for consumers because we want it to be open source so we can play around with it. But if you step back and you're running a company, you don't want it to be open source. You want to make money on this thing. So if I had to give them one big criticism is maybe reevaluate your open source thought process here. I know you've probably built this on that at least somewhat, but I mean, that's something that Sega is probably going to ask you to change, more than likely, because they know they need to make money on this as well. Now, the place that the Atari box has fallen short is that they're not even attempting to target really the high-end games, right? They've come out and said it's going to play lower to mid-range games, indie titles essentially, right? Despite it being $300 as the roof, which is pretty expensive for an indie box. They are not doing that. They have come out and said, we are targeting 4K, yeah, that's right, 4K, and essentially high-end games, AAA games, because when you look at the specs that they have on the bottom of their site, which are right here, they're not playing around. A 4GB GeForce GTX GPU, a 1TB hard drive, and 16GB of DDR4 RAM. This sounds like it's going to be, from what I can tell, a pretty capable Steam machine, essentially. I know we call every closed PC small little boxes. We always call them Steam machines because we expect to load Steam. If they were smart, they wouldn't have Steam anywhere on here. They would have their own store, like I've said before, because then most people aren't, like, they're not getting the money. Steam is getting the money, not them. It's so weird, and I hope they reevaluate that, because that could be the difference between Sega really taking this and running it with it and just not. Like, they need a closed store. But a 4GB GTX card, depending on what they use, in that small box, it's going to be a laptop GPU. We know this. But the interesting thing here is with the Pascal line, it doesn't matter. The thing about the Pascal chipset that have come out for laptops, very small, if no difference between the desktop and the laptop counterparts now. That's why you don't see things like 1050M, for example, anymore, 1060M. You just see GTX 1060. That's because, at this point, that's what they use. They just use the card itself in the laptop. It's pretty cool, actually, the way they have kind of turned that around. So they could be using a mid-range GPU. I'm trying to figure out what GPU they would use. Initially, when I heard that, I said, oh, 1060, duh, just use a 1060. You could probably get it in at a decent price, and it would run 4K at, like, medium settings. Most people have seen that. 4GB is interesting, though, because I looked around, I see a 3GB card, and I see a 6GB GTX 1060 card. No real 4GB. Now, I'm sure they have some laptop ones that do have 4GB, and you could play around with those RAM settings. Not a big deal. So I would say they're probably using a 1060, a GPU based on the 1060, if they want this to be at a good price. And that's what we're going to get into now. The pricing on this thing. I don't know how they're going to get a good price out of this, because if they are, it's going to be, I have to assume it's going to be at least $500, right? I mean, I can't imagine it's less than that. And then you're in Xbox One X territory with something that does not have any notoriety. I think that's why they desperately want Sega's branding, Sega's approval on this thing, because if you don't have a mascot like Sonic, you could put Sonic on this and it would help. If they don't have that, I don't really know how you sell to people with what, again, needs to be a closed-off system. It's going to be interesting. Now, they have a newsletter you can sign up for, which, if you're interested, I mean, I say sign up for it because you never know what could come out here. But man, they are full speed ahead on this thing. We're going to see a working system soon. The controller, I don't like the look of the controller. It looks like a third party, like, there are junk controllers out there that I don't like that just look weird. It looks like one of those weird third party controllers. I wish they had done something a little more, I guess, sleek or modern looking, but what can you do? It's going to come apparently with a controller and everything to set up, and they're targeting a high resolution. A little surprised here, and they're not going to name it Dreamcast, which is good. It's going to be named Spartan, but it's going to be weird to see if Sega really gets into this. I assume they've gone this far because they want to present it to Sega, and Sega is at least somewhat interested. But let me know what you guys think about what could be Sega's next iteration in the console lineup. They could enter the 4K console generation with a bang if it's as good as they're talking about here. Now, the other interesting thing is they could interchange the video card, the laptop card, with something else and get a lower-end version. They could get one that targets 1080p and make it cheaper. They could easily make one that targets 1080p, I would assume, for about $300. I think that's completely possible, and that would more compete with like the base PS4 that's somewhere between $250 and $300, and then have the the big version for $500 if you want that for 4K. Very interesting though. Let me know what you guys think down below. Could this be it? Could this be Sega's next shot at the console market? Do you think they're even going to look at it and be interested in it? That's the big question. Will Sega say, yeah, let's get in with this group that's building it. They have the signatures, I guess, if Sega really cares. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on this project because it's really accelerated recently, more so than the last time I saw it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.